Let's talk about data storytelling. I'm sure you've heard so much about data. Everyone is saying, oh, you have to be data literate, you have to learn data, you have to implement data in your domain expertise. But how do you turn numbers, abstract numbers, into stories and insights that make sense to people, that make sense to your customers, that make sense to your stakeholders? So, in this video today, I'm going to be talking about data storytelling. Allow me to prove this to you in this video. Now, we all tell data stories consciously or unconsciously. Just pause this video and just think about one moment in time that you told data stories in one way or the other. So when you're applying for roles and trying to explain your direct impact in previous roles, that is a data story. So when you are applying for roles, sometimes you have to articulate your impact in your CV. And how do you do that? You do that by saying how, because of your role or a role that you played in a project, it led to a certain percentage increase, whether it's in productivity, in revenue, in social media traction, in impact traction. So these are data storytelling. When you're writing your motivation letters for these roles, you're also telling data storytelling because you're talking about yourself, and then you're also adding statistics to back the stories that you're telling so that it's credible. Another way that we tell data stories in our day-to-day life is when you're pitching product to investors. Have you ever pitched a product in a pitching competition, whether it's on campus, in your business, and for you to be able to articulate the impact of your product, you see investors, or you see people that are pitching, trying to project the impact that their products will have over a period of years. That is the use of data. You see them talking about how they were able to collect insights on, or what they call needs assessment, in order to ascertain the use of their product. So how useful is this product? Because it's one thing to say, oh, my product is very useful, but what a needs assessment does is that it helps you really go to your prospective target audience and learn about the problem that you want to solve. And sometimes you find something different, and this thing, like the process of collecting these insights, is still you using data to tell stories, to make sense of your product and the potential impact. Another point is when you're trying to convince a stakeholder or decision maker to fund the project. So if you've ever worked in corporate, or you're working in corporate, or anything, sometimes you want to push a particular project, a cause, an idea, and you're not the one that funds the project. So you have to convince stakeholders, you have to convince the board members to fund a project. And most times they would ask you for the numbers. So what have we done, or how would this product be useful in what we are already doing? How is it different from what we've already done? So they need numbers. Will this product work? How feasible it is? What research have you done to prove that this project is a good idea and not going to be a waste of money? So doing that, you are telling data stories. Now, I want you to share any moment that comes to mind when you told a data story. You can leave that in the comment section. I want to hear your thoughts. So when do you feel that you've told a data story in one way or the other, consciously or unconsciously? Let me know. Now, this is the only data storytelling formula you need. You can screenshot this and save this so that you always remember. One is you need your data, your insights, context, or CTA. CTA stands for call to action. So, what do you want people to do after they've listened to your data story or watched your data story? And this formula gives you the best data storytelling ever. So I'm going to break down this formula in the next slides. So screenshot it. So data plus insights plus context slash CTA is equal to the best data story ever. Now note that sometimes this will not um, when you're presenting it, it may not follow the consecutive order. So it may not be data first, your insights, then context. So depending on the type of audience who you're talking to, you might want to interchange the position. Maybe the context comes first, and then the data, and then the insights, and then the CTA. So just take note of that as we go through this course. Now, the data. The data is the number. So here we can see the number 200 million. Now, when you see this number 200 million, what comes to mind? Most likely nothing, right? And that's because it could mean anything. It could mean $200 million. It could mean 200 million people. It could mean 200 million clothes. So it doesn't make sense to you, right? Now let's go over to the next slide. Insights. Now, in the place of insight, you're going to explain what this number means. So, in the other slide, you didn't know what 200 million meant. It could have meant anything really. And so now I'm telling you that this represents 200 million women. And so you're wondering, okay, so what do I do with 200 million women? It's an insight, but it's not helpful. It's not a helpful information for me to take any action. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, this is where context comes in. So for you, you might be asking, who are these women? Why should it matter to me? This is where context comes in your data storytelling. So you can see this is more like a creative visualization I did. And this 200 million represents 200 million women that are subject to female genital mutilation globally. So you can see that now it makes sense to you. So after this contest, I can now add a CTA. Okay, donate to my organization to help fight for these women or provide funding for these women or education for these women. Or my CTA can be, okay, let's sign a petition to stop female genital mutilation globally. So you can see that the CTA now makes sense because you have this number, you have the insights, and then you understand the context of the insights. And now you're able to decide, do I want to take action or not? Now, a good data storyteller or a good data story rather should always answer the following questions. What are we saying? What are we saying? And this is where the data comes in. Like, what are we seeing with the numbers? Are we seeing 100 million youths in 2025 do not have jobs or they have jobs? Why does it matter? This is where the insights and context comes in. So whenever you see a data set, you ask yourself, what are you seeing? So this is where the process of you're cleaning the data, you're trying to get the info, you're trying to perform statistics and analysis to further understand the data. And then the next thing you're going to ask is, why does it matter? So you've done the statistical analysis, you've cleaned the data, you've done some visual representation of the data sets. Now, why does this matter? So this is where the insight and context comes in. And still on the contest, you will still ask, what is driving it? So we know this matters, but like from the numbers, can we deduce what is causing this issue? And then the last thing for your is your CTA or your call to action, where you be asking, what should anyone seeing this do next? So we've seen your beautiful design, you've seen my beautiful slides, you've heard me talk about data storytelling. What should I do next? And for that, I will tell you that you can save this slide. I'm going to put a downloadable version of these slides for you to view, and you can start practicing your stories. Because one thing with data storytelling is like a muscle that you build with practice. So you can just get random data from websites and then begin to form data stories. Now, you can also check out my video where I talk about how you can find data sets online. So, if you're wondering how do I look for data sets online, you can check out my video. And if you're also wondering how you can start a project, step by step process to start a data project from start to finish, you can also check out this video. So, do well to subscribe, share this with someone that needs this, practice, and you can come back to this video and tell me all you've learned and the exciting projects you're working on. See you in the next video.